Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to today's episode. First of all, I hope that the wind doesn't disturb the voice. It's pretty windy now. However, for this episode, my attention went to actually the title, Why Did Matter Name Itself? That means the evolution of the title of this episode. First it was, why did atoms name themselves? Then it was, why did matter name itself? Then I wondered, I saw a poetic angle where it's, why did matter matter to itself? But the focus is on, why is it, or why should it, that a process of evolution should lead to an object arising as a subject to itself? That's the fascination of this episode. That's what I'm attempting to look at. For me, there is various ways. Sometimes when I look at a problem is a situation. A situation is occurring in a landscape, in a world. Situations belong to worlds. And worlds have design. What does that mean? Every problem is of design. Everything that is disturbing the human being in this lifetime is a design problem. It is not a defect of nature. There is many things in nature we can't control. You know, the person can turn their head, but they can't turn the planet the other way. They could turn their head the other way, but they can't turn their planet the other way. There's so many dimensions beyond our free will which we don't have a second opinion on. Do you know? That means, imagine you were a neat freak, a telekinetic neat freak, you know? And so everywhere you went, you wanted some sort of ability to move stuff with a sort of perfection. You would after a while see whether you have telekinesis or not, whether you have an ability to be a Jedi and move your lightsaber without touching it. I mean, in this life, perception, processing is the game. It's the major game. That means, why did matter matter to itself? That means, how could atoms notice themselves? And the fascinating thing is that it requires a long time and a lot of complexity. That means, right now we may think of ourselves as simple individuals, but the complexity of the biological cells in our body and what they're doing is something else. That means right now I'm sitting here as a simple person speaking to you, but you know how, at what's, like, how, excuse me, what kind of cells, what my cells are doing? Do you know, the body is so sophisticated, sometimes, even though the body is designed to experience both pleasantness and unpleasantness. But sometimes when there's unpleasantness, I still get over fascinated by the event. You know, sometimes I look at myself in the mirror and I'm like, am I being a creature right now? This is so surreal. My aim with these talks and with my general work in this lifetime is to hopefully one day, if it's written in the stars, I wanted to open a hall of advanced communication that was similar to the notion of parliament, but it wasn't a parliament of politics. I thought of, like, suddenly I was watching the UK Parliament, to be honest, and this person who's someone who it's one of my favorite people who I would, if I had a chance to interview, I would go interview him. His name is John Burkow. And in the UK Parliament, or whatnot, just in the notion, there is the governing power and then there is the other. That means there's two sides to it and there's a speaker to the house. I looked at this modern world of ours and I'm like, what is going on? And I realized there's remnants of antiquity. What that means is if we try to wonder about the evolution and advancement of communication, most people through Zen and mystical insight become aware of the non-dual. If the non-dual can witness both sides of the coin, the mind is no longer bound to a dualistic mind. Here's the thing, you will have duality bother you if you're identifying with one side of the spectrum. But it is only the bird that can fly. The bird flies by simultaneously moving its wings, by being aware of its wings. And when a bird flies, its purpose is not to stare at its wings. So human beings paying attention to chaos and order, or their lives being defined by that, is like a bird staring at its wings trying to fly, rather than staring at the sky that its mind through chaos and order has simulated into. You know, there are some who they feel life is a simulation and they break on the inside. And there's some people who feel life is a simulation and they break the simulation. You know, that means there's two ways in this world of continuity. You adjust to the world, or the world adjusts to you. Now, let me tell you something interesting. There is a law of event. That means imagine if human psychology was something like a programmer sat down and programmed it. Not a divine agency, but I'm just saying, let's say language was a program of human behavior. It's as if it's like wondering, when will the entity wander about beyond its program? Or is its life defined by repetition? You know, Terence McKenna was making a very important point, that the reason novelty is important is because we are a habitual creature. We're a creature where the seasons are cyclical, our bodies are cyclical, our sleep is cyclical, our work is cyclical. So we are creatures that are not like, we can't instantly change, but we develop into patterns of function. When we look at the evolutionary animal, what do we notice? We notice that language was secondary. What was primary was an event-based, experience-based realm. When I was in Iran in the summer, there was an idea that came across. What was said was that the person was making a comment on the Prophet of Islam, and was saying a story I had never heard. The person had said a story where this man, the Prophet, he went by and with his followers back in the day, and they came by a wall where there was shadow. There was a shadow of the wall. And everybody goes, but the wall was like, it seemed like it was loose. You know what I mean? Like there's some walls that are like the bricks are falling from the wall. So the wall is loose. Now this wall was providing a shadow. The disciples of the Prophet go and, the followers of the Prophet go and sleep under this. The Prophet doesn't. And his followers come to the Prophet and say to the Prophet, you said that everything we trust in God, everything is pre-written. Why do you fear sleeping under the shade? The followers of the Prophet came to the Prophet and they're like, why did you fear, why didn't you sleep under the shade of the wall? And the Prophet says, Because that wall is loose and the Creator has given us intelligence to use it. And the followers who are just following just based on, because it's the easy implementation, suddenly realize, no, 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 no. We're not here to follow what we cannot see. You can't even follow it. If you're a follower of the unseen, what are you following? That means man has followed objects and man has followed subjects. Man has even attempted to follow the man in the mirror, coming to the conclusion that at the end there is only the beginning. That means right now, if everything, this simulation, if the sky started cracking and the simulation of this realm would stop, I would watch the end to see how it would begin. In this life, if you step into the vehicle, there is karma. There is karma. If you step out of the vehicle, then what is there to have karma? You see, if you're in a vehicle, you can crash. If you're not in the vehicle, can the vehicle crash? There is no vehicle to crash. That is the approach of the mystic. The mystic was the one, imagine, you know what it is? The mystic was just that child who stared at emptiness a bit longer than the rest. It is 2020. 4 to 5 billion years of progress. Now we are here as creatures. As creatures that have found a way to move in ideological Iron Man suits. The linguistic simulation, we are all Iron Men. We're all Iron Men in the linguistic simulation. Do you know you can't, like, that means, here's the thing, physically the person can get hurt. But if you realize you're not language, ideologically, can you get hurt? That means imagine person A is sitting in the park and person A observes language, has come to that level of insight. Person B comes to person A, da 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 da, like literally as if like a machine gun of painting a picture of person A to himself that is inefficient. Person A stares at person B. And person B is rude as if it's the wrath of the gods in motion. Person B says all this stuff. Person A just watches in the silence. Person B is angry, imagine. Person B is like, da 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 da. And then person B realizes person A is not responding to the anger. Let me tell you, the most powerful thing you can do is at an angry person is silently and in a still way stare at him as if like, are you done? That is the way you handle anger. You let the fire go out, then you turn on the hose to wash off the ash, you know? As far as I'm concerned, human beings are just emergent properties of nature that are aware they emerged. That's our difference from being animals. That's the whole thing of our mind being in our own hands now, in the hands of a subjective phenomenology. The presence of the wind does not mean the absence of movement. There's many things that are invisible. Right now, my brain, I cannot see it, but I see sight. That means I know I have a brain, but due to the first person position of the perception, it's just visible sight. So the brain is in the visible. It's as if simultaneously as I feel an object is moving, this object has a context, and its context, the mind moves. Your mind is here, so there is space. If we didn't have minds, the world would have less dimensions. I'm not joking. That means this is one thing the human being never thought. We thought about traveling to other dimensions, you know, we thought about being multidimensional, but we never thought in some sense that the unknown is alive in ways that the known can never know. Because it's too big. That's the thing. It's too big. That means if the whole cosmos was meant to be empty, that means it's like a lot of room is being wasted. When you look at animals and you wonder about what the mind of the animal has not separated its intelligence from the environment. We separated. We were like a species that was like tired of smelling dirt, and we stood up and we stepped out of the furnace, nature's billion-year-old furnace. And as we stepped out into an idea. That means the reason I find myself in the camp of the continental philosopher is because without language, personality means nothing to me. That means I've looked at this world and I'm like, if we didn't have names, if we were a telepathic civilization or some sort of one mind, I was thinking like, why would we name names? If we connected all our heads in the future to one computer, why would we need individualism? Why would we need to exist? And right now, our existence, the meaning of life, is arising due to the body. That means sometimes, even though the Buddhist perspective does see that incarnation in this realm is not a good thing in Tibetan Buddhism. The truth is, people love where they are going. People love where they are going. It's fascinating. We stepped out of the jungle into the concrete jungle. We named ourselves. We are like right now, think about it. Just imagine you're a pure materialist. Pure materialist. That means you've never thought about the immaterial even in your life once. As a pure materialist, you will be like, yo, this is scary. How did creaturehood emerge from meaningless stuff? For me, that's the miracle of life, that it's here. Whoa. Human nature is incredibly unpredictable. And this makes us not want to release the inner realms and the outer realm. If any human being can stand their ground in the unknown, if you can look at a moment and allow it to be unknown and just watch the unknown as if you went to the cinema, and the film started, but the whole film was a question mark. If you can watch the unknown without collapsing or relapsing into ideology, which tends to be what happens. Very few people can go in their inner realms and want nothing from it. That means wanting non-duality is also like wanting freedom is also rude in my books. That means when you go to the for me, it's really all my here's the thing, my conclusion on metaphysics is this, on any sort of spiritual notion on this planet: you do not chase the butterfly, because if you do, you will be one step behind and you will be shackled to the personality extracted from the unknown. And then at that point, it's like, here's the thing. There are soldiers on the battlefield that they forget they are a soldier. And they go not knowing. It's as if, imagine back in the day, a battlefield, World War II, and a soldier goes in the battlefield and the soldier freaks out. The soldier forgets, just sees people killing each other and just goes on. Imagine a machine gun killing everybody in front of it, the soldier. Imagine this. I'm saying it would be a situation where it is true. It's as if like, imagine a team where a soccer player has gone rogue. The team is like, buddy, if you make a mistake, we're all screwed. So you better know what you're doing if you're going rogue. If not... You must trust the self. You must trust the world. You must trust. And then the unknown life begins. That means when you are done with your known life, what I mean by your known life, that means a life that your value is based on what you know rather than what you don't know. I feel it is because of the emergence of language and a subjective evolution, something made us be something else to ourselves that we could also watch alongside the body. That means I wouldn't be surprised if there's 2 births. Why don't people celebrate 2 birthdays? They should celebrate the birthday of their objective existence, and they should also celebrate the birthday of their subjective existence, which is their earliest remembrance. You think, says, is rogue like going ballistic? No. It means you have noticed something, a unique opportunity, and you're attempting it. What does that mean? That means if a ship, it has a hole in it, and you're the first person on that ship that sees the hole, you go rogue. You don't go and say, hey, captain. And the captain's like, I'm too busy, man. I can't talk. You don't wait when you see downfall. That means right now we're identifying at most, what is the person identifying? With their home, if they're abundant, with their company, if they're very abundant, let's say the person's on a political level, then it's as if like they're identifying with their nation. But there's some moments in life. I'll give you an example. In UK Birmingham, I was living a very minimalistic life, and in the mornings I would walk to this ATM, to try to solve my breakfast situation. But I remember one morning, walking, and I remember I saw this wooden sign of this construction place that was like big. This wooden sign had fallen onto the street, and it was like early morning, and I was walking, I ran and I moved the sign from the intersection on the street it had fallen. I didn't like to do it, It was something where it was like this heavy sign, But there was something we're noticing. Upon noticing structure, the mind has already charged in. You know what the mind is? The mind is like, it's like, imagine soldiers back in the days looking at an army, and the person's like, oh my god, is that an army fighting? But then the person looks at their mind and they're like, what do you think of the army about to approach? But the mind has already ran into the battlefield. I am telling you, you are performing in front of a known self and an unknown world. If you are done with knowing the self, you notice the world. And even after you complete your great work and you are done with noticing the world, you will go into a rhythmic insight. That means right now, man is making the world his. We're looking at stuff and we're naming it. Just like we human beings have named their kids. They were like, all right, I'm going to name this object too. You know, and I'm going to name this color too. And I'm just going to name everything. And that way we can speak about everything. And because we can speak about everything, we can be everything. And there's hope and visions and dreams and reality. Meanwhile, language is like this sphere that it's like a bubble that's just growing bigger, 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 but it can pop in an instant. Meaning can break as quickly as it can be built. The reason matter mattered to itself was because of the intelligence of an event. And something human beings have not thought about is life being and it being based on the intelligence of an invisible event. That means while we're being human beings, there is an angle that potentially can be looked at human life where we are not human beings. Because it all depends on your alphabet. If you want to use a local alphabet, a personal alphabet, your inner realms are the edge of the world. If you want to use, let's say, an alphabet of your planet, the planet is the limit. If you want to use a galactic alphabet, you'll have galactic archetypes. You'll be like, you know, it's the same way that there's people and, you know, honorable soldiers, there's honorable, you know, galactic events taking place. Do you know? But it even goes beyond. It goes to a point where the mind's edge, as Shri Nisargadatta Maharaj so brilliantly has said, is diversity without separateness. That means anybody going towards non-duality in the way of freedom, that's it. In this realm, you can be diverse. Like your freedom is that you're a unique chess piece. There has been moments in this life where my mind has been a commanding engine. I'm not joking. There's been moments in my life where I've known how to do things, known what to do before even the thought emerges. And there's been situations where I haven't known and it's been strange, as if some circumstances. Here's the thing, we think life has to be good and we have to stay away from the bad, or life has to just make sense in the order and the chaos is meaningless. But once we get over yin and yang, once we separate yin and yang from fighting with one another, the ever-present approaches you. And the ever-present can only be remembered. And Alan Watts did something magnificent in sentence structure. And he said, imagine going to sleep and never waking up. Now imagine waking up as if you had never gone to sleep. Something in those lines. That's the thing. Imagine you woke up having never gone to sleep. Imagine a civilization that is able, without limit. You see, we tend to say suffering is limitless, joy is limited. Right? We tend to think, oh man, there's so much pain, suffering, hardship, like what is this world? You know, we think like that. But for me, we have allowed ourselves to see suffering more limitless than joy. There was a time where I'm like, why is my inner realms designed to reduce me in front of myself? That means there's no such thing as depression. There is just human beings that look down on themselves and don't realize at the same time they could look up. You are weak until you're strong. That's it. That's the truth of nature. You're weak until you're strong. And you can have whatever belief, truth. The most important thing is attending to the living reality. Nothing is beyond, like that surpasses non-duality, where it's as if you are responding to the signal of existence. For is it not a signal? Aren't we receiving sensory perception right now like an antenna? Are we not similar to digesting food? Aren't the eyes assimilating light into subjective categorization? So guys, Hiva says, Isaac Newton says, to every action there is always an equal and opposite or contrary reaction. Yes, you know, the third law. This life is endless alphabets in endless dimensions based on the amount of energy that is willing to be exerted in the outer realms. I can be honest with you, there's situations in life that I just watch. There's nothing I do in some moments of my life. It's as if the world has the microphone and I am the audience. And there's moments where I feel it's as if the value of the lifetime, because every day happens once, is proper expression. I feel people don't communicate to understand or to be understood. People communicate because they want to express who they are. That means it's like, I don't know if you've noticed this, but some people I've noticed that even myself sometimes when it's like in a discussion when someone is saying something, they're trying to paint a picture properly. If you interrupt them in the middle, the person feel the picture isn't complete, and so they begin again. That means the way we communicate is actually a sort of inner performance taking place. When you become the watcher of that inner performance, you become silence before language. And if you are, as a child, like me personally in this life, I have a memory. One of my earliest memories is me being a child. I remember being in the cradle, and I just remember the room, and I remember there was human being, but there was no identity. There was no language. It was as if that patch hadn't been installed yet. That update hadn't been added yet. So what does that mean? That means we are all born before the linguistic simulation can torture us as a character in a world of suffering. We are nature. That means it's your expectation. That means some people, they have huge expectations in this life, and the more expectations you have, it's like Shunryu Suzuki says, like, if you really want to like dream big in this life, like here's the thing, it's not bad to dream, but I'm just saying it's also fun to wake up. Shunryu Suzuki says life is like building a boat, getting on it, paddling in the middle of the ocean, and suddenly the boat sinks. You're building, 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 suddenly stop. Suddenly a huge, like, you know, like an officer whistling, you know, for the driver to stop. It becomes like that. So for me, this life feels, that's why I'm saying don't take the linguistic simulation too seriously. Be playful with life, because it is not just based on rational events. There is the dimension of emotion. There is domains of novelty, which means there could be potential behaviors that you can plan as much as you like. That action has never happened before, so whatever amount you plan, it's just new. When you realize there is emergence, and what, I don't know, I'm just trying to say that it's like you notice Shiva, Krishna, Vishnu, dimensions of creation, maintenance, and destruction. Shiva is destruction, Brahman is creation, Vishnu is maintenance. Vishnu is like the cosmos management. Brahman is like the creator, the owner of the cosmos. And Shiva is like the security guard of the cosmos. It's like the guy at the reception of the apartment. It's so what that means is there are three dimensions to the same event, or to a potential of an event. Because for me, I'm like, all right, my whole life there's been many strategies that I've even developed. But I'll tell you, the point is not just developing a model. Even in business, you start with a business model just to enter the market. The moment you enter the market, you look at the market and you adjust. You readjust your business model in accordance to how the movement of, let's say, money in that system is moving. Because anytime we have an emotion on something, we stop observing it further because we snapshot believe it. Because emotions can also be observed, and that is the next thing where I'm just like, let's have the civilization become aware of language. If they become aware of language, they'll suddenly notice the significance of emotions. For me, emotions are like an added dimension to the signal. So imagine you're getting a signal from life, which is like manifestation and conscious manifestation. Then emotions is like in that conscious manifestation, you got another signal. So behind our eyes, it's multidimensional. Language is multidimensional. Open the dictionary and you'll see one word has multiple definitions. And human beings are looking for a singular truth. How adorable. In a changing world where we're believing stuff. It doesn't get more cute than that, The world is movement. Movement now has direction after 4 billion years. It's always had not always, but since the objective evolution, it has speed. So you have a body to experience speed, and you have mind to experience direction. So really, human beings are velocity. So our ideology is an instance of speed and direction, and the attention again is the direction, and the effort, like a binary effort, is the speed. So I would say what I'm doing right now, and what I think every human being alive is doing, is that they're watching something and processing it. That processed outcome becomes a direction. Then they have to choose if they want to exert energy or not. There's been times where I've been tired, very tired. I've gone all out, I've been tired, but suddenly an important idea for a talk has come. And I've asked the logos, what do I do when I don't have energy? And you know what the response was? What I felt the secret of the energy is? It was as if the logos said, find and create your energy. Energy can be created. It's not just something you can be found. That means the human being is under the impression it needs to find energy, not realizing that it has access to a sophisticated movement capability that can endlessly generate energy. That means, think about it. I remember in one of my talks proposing this idea that all schools and all buildings that have stairs, we should create a technology that walking on stairs, it's like the stairs suddenly lowers and it creates some sort of, generates power of the building. So the buildings don't have to have systems of, don't have to pay for electricity. The people walking in the stairs of the building generate the electricity for the building. The reason is because in my childhood there was a school I attended where it had too many stairs, guys. It was cruel when I think about it. But at the same time, the stairs made us healthy. So the more stairs we have, and I'm just telling you, movement is crucial. So just like walking on stairs and it creates energy, so the people don't care. They're just walking on stairs that are just being pressed down when they walk on it, that are just slowly pressed down. Some billionaire, please go, make this technology, and you can give me a ring after too. The body in trust allows the inner realm's energetic display. That means imagine you are, okay, here, I'll give you an example. I personally, in my life, I've been a shy kid in my youth. I've never been a dancer. But there was a moment where I was raking leaves in the yard and there was nobody there. And I suddenly noticed in my inner realms, I saw myself holding that rake and doing a strange, uh, stick in hand, as if that stick was a spear, and a sort of martial art dance. And the thing was, when the possibility came in my inner realms and I trusted it, I could have the energy for it. Anything you don't trust, it's as if the cosmos denies the energy for it, for you. As if the cosmos is like, all right, you don't trust this, you don't get to touch it. Touch this energy. I am telling you, you are living a life before you're actually living a life. If you can be aware of the inner realms, you will notice the nature of your attention. That's the whole point of it. The point of the inner realms is not to just, play with clay ad infinitum. The point of the inner realms is to notice the nature of your attention. That means remembering the pilot's cabin. Because we wait for our better selves, not realizing that it's not a waiting game only. It's allowance. You gotta just try something you've never done, and after you try that a couple times, what ends up happening is not that you get you notice you can be free. That means it's like I'll tell you this. I've in my high school I was a striker on the soccer team, and it was after scoring the first goal that suddenly that street smart familiarity comes with, now you know how to score a goal, you know? So it's like once you experience an event, you get updated, and once you repeat that event again, it's no longer the same event to you. So that means there is no such thing as failure. There is just blueprints. You got more information now. Failure is just more precise information. You know? That's what failure is. There's no such thing as failure. There's just energy being exerted and it stops. It's push or stop pushing. That's the whole thing. You could be a business owner, okay? And you could be like, I'm not successful, my business is shit. Like, okay, maybe I should be more discreet. My business isn't straight functioning in the market. So what do I do? It's like, here's the thing. Here's the thing. If you care about something, if you want to see victory, your eyes have to walk there. When you realize success is a journey, it's not a sudden thing you get. It's something that there's like small micro battles suddenly lead to one moment where you felt you had a macro victory. That means there are generals who they achieve the victory, and they celebrate. You know, but there's generals who they complete their victory, and at the celebration, they are already living their tomorrow. They're already strategizing the future. So you see, if you care about something, you will make it work. I'm telling you, we have enough intelligence. That means, here's the thing. We define ourselves, then feel we can't do different things. That's the whole issue. I feel now, I'm going to share with you guys, I have to share my theory on the true scene of evolution. Because the question is, why did matter to itself? Because conscious psychology and consciousness and duality emerged due to a cosmological inevitability. We know that the planet has been getting a tan in the sun. But for the people who have been existing on this pebble in a light beam, we have been experiencing the presence of light and its absence. The presence of light, its absence, on off. Somebody as if you know what's going on. The laws of nature and the orbiting tendency of the planet is in some sense endless on-off switch effect for the psychology of man. It's like, it is true, there is a temperature component to how the universe came about, a temperature-based translation, and then there is an absence of visibility and invisibility component. So what does that mean? That means eyes, biologically, I mean, this is an explanation. The evolutionary biologists would tell you that eyes developed underneath water. The eyes, how right now we have eyes. Its emergence was due to a sort of water acting as a lens of some sorts, like the water was filtering. That means you can say on the surface of the planet, light was so intense that there couldn't emerge something perhaps that the sensitivity would constantly get wiped off due to the on and off switch effect. But now think of it this way. Every day, this creature opens its eyes, sees stuff, suddenly becomes dark, doesn't see anything. And our whole morality of good and bad, when somebody does good, it's like there's more light in the room. When somebody does bad, as if things have become dim. It's fascinating that our breath even reflects this. The shores of the ocean reflect this. We are a tiny fragment of a giant cycle. As if we are on the bell of a giant bicycle, which we don't know what's even moving it. We just know that the bicycle is set in motion. Light allowed contrast. Contrast is duality. Duality is the wings of the bird. The individual requires contrast to be able to change. That means you need to compare one point of reference to another point of reference minimum. If you notice what a lot of the yogis were saying, a lot of the mystics back in the day, they were just trying to get out of binary by witnessing it attributelessly. There's some problems that are in your outer realms. You got to be attentive to those, and if you're smart, you solve a problem the moment you see it. Any problem, if it belongs to you or even if it doesn't belong to you. What does that mean? That means you might be like this, aerospace engineer, this or next level mechanical engineer, and you're walking past like a store where the sign is broken, or something, or some person's car has an issue, and you're not a mechanic, but you're a mechanical engineer to a degree that you know the mechanism well, you know. And imagine you are an engineer, you have no purpose, nobody's even telling you to do it, there's no instruction booklet, there's nothing, because you can do it. And if you see you can do it, the mind animates the potential of doing it. What we need is efficient individuals. We don't need good or bad individuals. That's the archaic. Evil, good and evil, the fight of good and evil, it's like, yeah, can we step out of our ancestors' pockets of morality, please? The modern age is upon us. The modern age is even, the modern age of the modern age is even upon us. What is happening is that matter is noticing what is keeping matter as matter is not matter. We know we are conscious, we know we are aware, yet we cannot touch. Can you touch your mind? Can you touch the idea of you? Can people touch their egos, guys? This is a good question to ask. If you think you have an ego, if you think you have an I thought identity right now, can you touch that? Can you touch the I thought? You see, no. It's just how the camera is held that, believe it or not, is suggesting the karma of the film. So life is not just ideological strategy in a space-time continuum. Life is the past living for the future, and the future becoming the past that again lives for the future. An endless repetition. As far as I'm concerned, when I think of extinction, it's honestly just there's a tiny candle in a dark cosmos lit after 4 billion years. Do we care about putting our hands in front of it on when it's windy or not? That means, imagine you realized that when a human being died on this planet, or there was war, like what was it? It's tragic. 75 million people died in World War II or something. 85 million, something around that ridiculous number of people died in the world wars. So it's as if you thinking each of those people, their ancestors for as long as who knows had tried continuing, and then the genetical line faded. The genetical torch couldn't be passed down because violence, the inner realms justified the non-existence of another inner realm. That's scary. For me, sometimes violence is something that it's like it's not a tool. It's a sword that does, its grip is also made of blade. That's what violence is. Violence is exactly that. A sword, a two-handed sword you're holding that doesn't have a handle. It's just pure blade. And so everything you hit, you are breaking your own hands. You are destroying your own opportunities. So the whole thing is, right now, violence is an inferior game. We want to be on the level, we want to build a civilization. If we had a time machine and we brought all the philosophers in history, they'll all slow hand clap and be like, well done, kids, well done. What does freedom mean to particles in space? I feel this is the proper view on evolution. We were meaningless particles in space. We became a meaningful, subjective process. For me, a very unique piece of language that I notice, or I could say a pattern I notice in monotheistic thought, is that God is being perceived as all forgiving. Yet, God did not forgive Adam and Eve. And there was a banishment, as if God couldn't forgive his own creation. Because if you are the source of power, you don't need personality. Sometimes I think, what would it be like if man was like in cyberspace, like a god? We put virtual reality goggles and yet we were like gods, you know? I thought, what would that be like? And for me, I realized it would be control on a whim. So if a person has control and is on a whim, it becomes a situation where mistakes don't exist because you are the creator of them. So I would say there was nothing wrong from in the monotheistic tradition with the fall. There was nothing wrong with man falling. Man made no mistake. Man just needed a reference point. Bass M says, this guy is odd. He's like a off-brand version of Alan Watts. It's like he's trying to be wise and he ends up losing himself in the conversation. Let me tell you, man, Bassam, I want to give you permission to endlessly see worser than that. You're being too nice, Bassam, in the chat section. I give you permission to endlessly see even worse than that in whatever way your imagination allows, because you don't see me. You're seeing yourself in me. You are seeing your memory is the imposter, my friend. But freedom. Freedom is freedom. Freedom means everybody can use the park. A model I designed, I feel, is very how would I say it? You can look at this life, it could be void. You can look at this life, it could be a singular moment of value. You can look at this life, it could be a dualistic division. You can speed up the duality and attain even consider the infinite. But beyond the infinite, man moves beyond the language threshold, and we return to the inconceivable. So my point is that why did matter matter to itself? Because after an unconscious world and an unconscious self, and after the conscious self, as Jacques Lacan says, the man who suddenly, the mirror effect, you look at the mirror and you suddenly notice, wow, there's somebody here in this world. From the conscious self to the conscious world. That is the next phase. We have lived as objects. We have lived as names and stories. Now rhythmic experience and collective events will be the next show. It is very easy to break something, way more complex to build it. And I don't know. Alan Watts was a person who, what did Alan Watts do? His whole career was he brought Zen to the East. I would say I'm more the guy talking about building the castle in the sky. For me, Zen, it is important to like notice there is something as non-duality, but it doesn't mean you can do it's for a person. Mysticism is where ideas are no longer necessary. True mysticism. That means I would tell you some of these yogis living in India, they're on the mountains, they're not people. Their psychology is not in the notion of a person. As I was saying, Shri Nisargadatta Maharaj, he says, I am myself. I said this earlier. I'm going to re-emphasize this. He says, you start off first being I am. He says, the I am myself comes. Then that goes, and the I am all comes. Then the I am all goes, and the I am remains. And Nisargadatta Maharaj says, even the I am goes, even that sort of godhood or God self or ultimate state of enlightenment or whatever, that goes, and nature is. You see, we are creatures trying to find perfection rather than wondering how are we imperfect. Nobody's DNA is the same. No two people have ever had the same voice. And it is a privilege not to be a clone in this world. The point is not a utopia that doesn't evolve. You know what it is? It's like once you have an intense experience, then anything under that intensity doesn't bother you. And if I am somebody, if I am not somebody, then what can we say about nobody? You know, that means if somebody tells you no, you're nobody, the response is thank you. You finally see it. That there is something more going on beyond the objective, beyond the body. The body is in some sort of field of awareness. In the Gita, they would say, there was a term, the sentence, it was like the field of the activity of the knower. And I saw parallels to this when in Japanese thought, where they say it's sorry, not Japanese, Chinese, Japanese. In Japanese thought, there's this notion of, I don't know, Morio Shiba has this quote. He says, the Tao, the truth, is witnessing the soul of heaven and earth. So guys, Bassam says we will not be fundamentally free until we move on from this plane of existence. I like how you've spelled plane, P-L-A-I-N. It's too plain, this exists. This plane of existence, fundamental freedom is fundamental bliss, and truly that is achieved only without the ego, my man, and the ego is the bookkeeper. Oh my God, bro. No, the ego is not the victim. Stop trying to get rid of the ego. Stop trying to destroy the ego. The ego is not your choice. It's the content of your mind that appears as you move in this realm. You know, Epictetus was such a chill, stoic guy. We suffer not from the events in our lives. We suffer from the judgments we have about them. Your inner life is the alphabet of suffering and pain. It is the alphabet used to give suffering, is the paint used to give suffering narrative. That means ownership means bringing something into your story. But the notion of freedom means that the unknown can't be brought, can't be chained to knowledge. That means the most honest answer to every question, due to the vastness of the scale of the cosmic event, is I don't know. That means we have more in common by not knowing than actually knowing things, because there's more unknown in the cosmos than known. So guys, to just land on the branch of the chat section, Sujani says, so what is MW1277? First of all, it's MW, Sujani. It's MW1277 is going to make anybody who wants to... Here's the thing. When I sometimes listen to my own talks, and the way I listen to it is I look at the clock randomly when I get the thought of my own talk. Like, all right, let me go hear what I said, like, I don't know, like at that time. What happens is, like, I look at the time, and right now, for example, it's saying 7:23 p.m. So I would type MW723, 720, it became 724. So I would type MW723 still, and It's just an easier way for you guys to find the talks for the number. No, so Johnny, I'm being playful, man. There's nothing wrong. I'm just saying it's an easy way for anybody who wants a random number of the episode. Let's say you want, I don't know, say a random number like 803. Okay? You just type in MW803 on YouTube search and it brings it. You don't have to type Mr. Within. You just type MW. For example, if you type MW1277, out of all the searches on YouTube, my talk is going to show up first. So I'm pretty much taking all the MW SEO, you know? I have noticed that energy and the story of life are separate. That an energetic phenomena can occur without narrative. That means we say in the laws of thermodynamics that energy cannot be created or destroyed, it can transform from one form to another. And for me, when I see a butterfly, a caterpillar become a butterfly, that's literally like energy transforming from one form to another. But the what is being doesn't die. It's like as long as something exists, it's as if the experience of the realm is momentarily eternal. It's as if the person doesn't know anything other than existence. Guys, I need a quick intermission. I'll be right back. And feel free to paint the wall of the chat section. You know. All right, guys. I'm gonna focus on the talk for a second. Why does matter matter to itself? Because it's impossible to identify with matter without identifying with the space where that matter is moving. So technically, the mind is not just projecting imagination, it's also creating emptiness. The mind, there is invisible imagination. That means we are not alive as just stuff. We are stuff in space. So if we are to move in the space, we have to be aware of the space, correct? So that means intelligence there's two sides to the coin. And being an individual manifest being seems to be one side of it. And the other side, right now, we are matter moving itself in space. I feel on the other side of the coin, we are space. We are matter. One side of the coin, space is moving matter. On the other side of the coin, matter is moving space. And the brain seems to be that antenna in the middle of the two. There's moments in life where you are in your conscious waking state, you know, matter is projecting an object is the cause and the effect is subjective in front of your eyes in the conscious waking state. But in the dream state, the cause is subjective and the effect is also subjective. But actually, I would say the effect is not I would say it like this: the cause is subjective, the effect is objective because the dream has content. That means I've woken up from dreams and I've been like, "What's going on? Did I live a life while I was asleep in one life?" The mysteries of the universe are noticed by many, by everyone. It's just that people don't have a cultural way to identify as the timeless. Due to the lack, it's as if our minds have evolved further than our language than the language we use. But because we're limited to defining our minds based on the language, we feel beyond the language there's nothing. This Sufi mystic poet named Hafez, He says, the words you speak become the house you live in. If you think you're a thought, your karma is attitude based. If you're not a thought, your karma is no longer based on attitude. You're noticing something else out of the moment. So I would say metaphysics is another way physics moved. You know, there is something fascinating. We have, as a declaration of universal human rights, freedom of speech, but we have not given freedom of interpretation of speech. Isn't that interesting? We say, yeah, we're free. It's like everybody's existing once, so go be free, human beings. But at the same time, the world is trying to, it has its shape. And so it's like if the inner realms don't relax, the outer realms is going to become actually a battlefield of inefficiency. That means the more, if here's the thing, if you make a mistake and you fix it, that's okay. But if the species makes a mistake, there will be so many people who that mistake can't be fixed for them. Guys, there's a metaphor I came across in Vedanta, and the metaphor was that you can have a bull made of gold, a bird, imagine, made of gold, and let's say a lion made of gold, yet the gold is gold, but those are different phases, you know? So it's as if energy can't be created or destroyed, so technically our energetic purpose is complete. It's only the experiential way, it's the experience that's important. An advanced civilization will become like an excellent gatherers of the inner realm kind of society. Let me tell you why. Because here's the thing. The mistake is an option. The inefficiency is an option. Weakness is an option. But by being options, that means there's other options. For Rumi, his notion of a guru was way more universal and planetary. Rumi says there's 10,000 ways to kneel down and kiss the earth. There is endless ways, poetically, to move here. So, why did matter to itself? It's as if the birds flew out of the nest. We are like Gaia's children that left the palace of nature, left that collective, all instantaneous event for what? To come and work with the dualism. You see, the weak suffer because they allow themselves. The strong, it doesn't even make sense to them suffering. There is pain, there is hardship, there is transition, but suffering? Who is suffering? When every day you wake up, you call it a new day. Who is suffering? If it's a new day, hence it's a new self. So that means you can believe in anything, but every day you wake up, the believer has changed. And believe it or not, the world is also changing too. So technically, we're just like we're like in a river, trying to. It's like we're being moved by a river. We're swimming in a river, and we think we're standing outside and nothing's moving. That's what's going on. When human beings treat their intelligence as a unique antenna, that means as if your DNA is unique, and that's an antenna receiving the world, and it's like we are generating realms. That means, what is thought? I say this thing: can a thought have a thought? We are a multidimensional being that from one eye we are sight through space, and with our other eye we are sight through matter. And we have two eyes that see the same. Pretty much. matter started telling itself stories. These stories became historic events. These historic events then became stories and were passed down. I feel an advanced civilization at least needs to acknowledge three types of human beings. At least, like minimum. A sort of solid state of the realm, a liquid comprehension of the realm, a fluid comprehension of the realm, and a gas state analysis of it as well. What does that mean? That means we are right now as a species caring for, imagine this whole world is like you're looking at a book and we're just looking at the world, the letters, the words, and we're not noticing the space between the words in the sentence. Right now, I'm saying it's becoming the archaic revival of the unknown. What does that mean? That means Friedrich Nietzsche shouted at the future generations, God is dead and man killed him. You know? And I'm saying when the archetype and the image of the archetype becomes less relevant, doesn't mean the urge of the human being to be its greatest performance in the life becomes less. Because it's an event, we want to participate. But when we want to participate, there's some human beings where they want the unknown to move. That means it's like the same concept of, even in like a Freudian interpretation on sex, that it's as if the partners want to shake one another. You know, not just a sort of just like how people how would I say it? We are a multidimensional being. Sometimes we require to experience systems ending. Sometimes we're required to maintain systems, and sometimes we're required to begin systems. When you begin things, you are working with an inner realm vision. I've been giving these talks for a while, and I've been getting so many kinds of people have given comments on the talks, you know, and I can tell you, on some level, all my talks are like ink on a page. They're like sound. They're mouth noises. The meaning is being generated from the person in the room. That means your ears are not my brain. Your ears are your brain. So when we see someone, what we see about them is technically how far we have looked into ourselves. Anyways, guys, to wrap this up, Why does matter matter to itself? Why has matter named itself? What do we do with language? I'm saying we treat it as a cocoon for the recognition that we deserve an advanced civilization before we don't deserve one. As simple as that. What kind of creatures were human beings? Creatures that the moment they noticed they could do something better, they did it. And what else could evolution be? It's an as Terence McKenna elegantly says, in the valley of novelty. That means there's a way people are living where information and their past and their future and all this thing is relevant to them, is important to them. Then there's some people who are living where that is all like the background. The immediacy of life is just how the moment is being. So there's times in life where I'm just like, I've just, gotten a notebook and just had a cup of tea or coffee or something in the morning and stared into just the sky or nature, you know, just outside on the porch. And it's been a situation where I've just had no thought. Not that I've had no thought. It's as if, like, before you have thoughts, the world has design in it. So when you're looking at the design of the world, there is no thought. It's direct. Guys, whoever in the chat section has a question directed at me, the speaker, um, of this moment, like put MW in front of it, I can take it seriously. Then I'll know you're directing the question at me. So Sujuani says, I feel a strong might inside of you, Mr. Within, something stronger. Why do you feel you have to go? What is wrong from the unison to matter? Let me tell you, man. This is first of all, great question. What is wrong with non-duality, in other words? Just accepting things as it is. What's wrong with that? Let me tell you, for how long can you listen to a child crying? The children of this galactic sector are crying. I speak of an advanced civilization, but there's a huge level of disgrace that we just have to act as if it's the shadow we have what we don't look at. For me, guys, I'll tell you, my whole work in this life is based this idea of civilization 2.0. And you're going to see probably me in the future just take this up a notch in regards to this. And Sujam, I would say here's the thing. We act like oneness is love. But if you don't care for existence, then your love is not of this world. Your love is not in this world. Here's the thing. We think we are the host, and the world is a guest in our perception. That's why it's easy to be individual. You think it's your house. You think your brain is just, this moment is you, But it's become, in the mystical angle, it becomes not just hovering as a force field, but it becomes If you want to transcend this world, it is easy to not care for the way it's changing, because you want to get out of it. You know what that means? That means there's people. Imagine a boat. I'm writing this. This is a story I've shared at the beginning of this book, which is unpublished, but I'll share the story with you. It's a story at the beginning where I've said that imagine 8 billion people on this giant, giant ocean, and the ocean is not blue. The ocean is black. You know, like space. And there's this giant, giant ship in unknown waters. 8 billion human beings are living on this ship. Now imagine there is a hole. Some part of the ship is sinking. Now imagine some persons notice there's something in the ship that is sinking. There's a hole. The person comes and says to the other side of the ship that they don't see, where the captain is. They don't see the hole in the back of the ship. The ship is so huge that the person goes and says the ship is sinking, and they're like, hey man, every day everyone says the ship is sinking. We just can't see, so we don't know. If you truly love this world, you would attend to it. You would see it. You know, that means it's like, how can a parent love their child if they don't see their child? You know? Pretty much my whole inspiration, guys, is eventually imagine we fast forward like 1,000 years, and we can imagine advanced civilization being built then, 1,000 years from now. But I'm saying, if we can imagine it being built then, why not attempt it now? What do we lose if we attempt the advanced? That means whoever you are in any moment you are in your life. What do you lose if you attempted the most advanced and complex challenges of your life? Usually people want to handle simple problems and then go to the big problems, but I would say, what would happen if you went to the biggest problem? You know? Alright guys, so let me catch up with the chat section. The answer is, Basam, no, but your brain, when you sleep, has a similar chemistry as DMT. So technically, dream states are similar to psychedelic experiences, I would say, from a more grounded scientific angle. So I would say, I haven't personally, but I've had dreams, so I don't know. I don't know if I dreamed about DMT, maybe that would be a DMT experience, you know. So, but no, the answer is no, Basam. Um, let me see. Hiva says, Mr. Within, what is your context when you speak of duality? What do you mean? I mean that after we notice there's space, after we notice there's also stuff, existence is singular, like everything is existing, then the next thing we had to consider was duality, chaos and order. That means after we became conscious we're here, then we became conscious there's a there. So now it's like here and there, or, you know, now and then, now and then. So I would say Hiva duality is how you have two eyes, and gives you an ability to have one view in some sense. Two eyes that see the same. That right now we're like there's something to the moment that is objective, but there's also something that it's like where's imagination happening, but we notice it. Imagination is not like doesn't have physical realism, but it has design. So you can imagine something and write it down, but you can't imagine an apple pie and suddenly like get that apple pie and start eating it like it's a so so Daniel says, Mr. Within, uh, people are attempting the most advanced civilization. It's why we have children making cell phones. Just an archaic view of the concept. No, 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 no. People are not attempting an advanced civilization. Really? How many architects have you seen build in the city different kind of architecture? That we're not the most advanced civilization. I mean, thinking from the past, like if your ancestors had come from a time machine, I would grant them that like that view. But now, like us, no. You know, that means if we thought this was an advanced civilization, why even change? If we thought we're perfect, why even do anything in this world? Why not just be Jello? Why not just be, you know, Jello rolling down the street? You know, why is there precision, design, focus, and even context? Why do we have these abilities accessible? You see, on some level, evolution is an opportunity to um, uh, be what has never existed before. So for me, every day is literally like it was one lifetime completed. The next day, another lifetime completed. The next day, so I feel actually I have, let me see exactly how many lifetimes I've lived. Let me calculate this from Google, guys. Hold on. Gosh. Just a second, folks. I'm trying to figure something out here. Okay, guys. So if every okay, honestly, I don't know. I don't know where to take this. I've entered a part of a thought that I cannot. Okay, Martin says, Mr. Within, are you trying to... Guys, I'm just going to end the talk and go to the Discord server. Just everybody who has a question, just come on the Discord server. It's easier. I can't like write essays right now in the chats. But just one last thing to say about the talk. We are alive, and it's a unique event, and it's an event that happens once, yet is remembered changelessly, as if we remember our birthdays, even though, it's like we celebrate our days of birth, but it's as if like for me, it's the body, the sense that it's a day is the mind. The body, even though we call it sleep, but the body is existing nonstop. So we have uh, experienced only so far existential immortality. It's just that experientially, if you saw existence and experience as dimensions to the person, the experience, it goes on and off, but the existence doesn't. Existing feels more eternal than experiencing. So this is why people have this notion that we want language to define the realm. I'm saying when a species realizes language is an advanced technology, and it's not even the most advanced technology. The most advanced technology is the one using the technology. So anyways, guys, thanks for tuning in. I'll see you in the Discord server. I'm going to share, the link is in the description of the talk, but yeah, thanks for tuning. So guys, before people leave, actually, if some questions were asked, I'm gonna let me attend these because it's like people took the time to write them. So, um, so guys, very quickly, I'll say, um, guys, there's no changing the world. I have a certain theory. I found a strategy to bypass extinction, and I feel like that's my whole life's aim of sharing that strategy. You know, so I would just say that life is its own driver. Thanks for tuning in, guys. See you in the Discord.